We're going to work on a poster activity to show the same things we learned on ClassKick, using smaller arrays to create a bigger array. First thing you're going to need is a colored sheet of paper, just like the one shown below. You're going to have to fold it into thirds, so watch as Mr. Lashmet folds this paper into thirds as neatly as possible. Take your time, you want to have pride in your assignment. Once you are done, you're going to go ahead and open it up, and you have 3 sections. The first section is going to be for your big array. We're going to use the same example we used earlier from the video, and it's 7 by 7. To make this as neat as possible, you're going to go ahead and trace the outside of the array that you've been given. Again, this is our example, 7 by 7. You'll be working on different numbers when you get your poster. Once Mr. Lashman is done there, she's going to have to label or draw in her array as best as possible. Notice what she's doing. She's taking her time to make the marks so that she can have neat, straight lines. Now that she's completed that, she's going to go and use the same array card to go and draw the straight lines. Now she's going to match point to point. Again, use the top of the card to go and create those straight lines so that you have a good model to match our task today. Now that she's drawn her 7 rows, she's going to go back and draw her 7 columns.
I like the use of vocabulary words there, Miss Q.
Why, thank you. It's also our dimensions. 7 by 7.
What's another word for those dimensions?
Factor pair.
Factors.
Notice that she's taking her time. She's not rushing to get this assignment done. Anything you do that's going to be turned in should always be done with pride.
Another thing too, boys and girls, we're using these arrays to compare. So if I took my time and drew the first one really nice and neat, but I drew my other one sloppy, it wouldn't be easy to compare because my rows and columns wouldn't match up and they won't be the same thing. All right, so I'm going to label this, Miss Q, 7 times 7, since
Perfect.
That's what this one is.
And again, in this situation, this is our big array. In the second section that you have for your paper that you folded into 3, we're going to go and use one example or one way to break it apart. Since we already used this number in the first video, let's go ahead and use the same equation. We started with 5 by 7, because as you said, we use those big known facts first. So again, I like what she's doing. She's lining it up to make sure that it works. And it is the same dimension. It is by 7 in one direction, but only by 5 in the other. And again, as she's done and she's drawing her rows and her columns again, you're going to notice that it looks comparable. We can actually compare it to the original big array. We know it has one dimension that's in common, which again is the 7. And once she does the rows, she's going to label them. It's only going to be 5 rows. So we need to know what's missing. And again, from the original video, we know that there's another 2 by 7 that's missing to make these 2 smaller arrays equivalent to that 7 by 7. And again, the first row or the first box in your poster is the original big array. Your second box is going to be your 2 smaller arrays. Don't forget to write the equation that matches. And in the third box, you're going to come up with another array that matches the original 7 by 7. And there she goes with her second smaller array. Notice she's adding it right to the bottom, so we should have the same dimension of by 7. And then number of rows on this one would be 2.
Now I still have my rows set up, so as long as they match, I can just drag those down.
Oh, it's a good way to cut some time there. And you're right. The key is that they match up, which again is telling us that they do have that same dimension. I like that you're not rushing, so I'm looking at it from this side, and when I see your two small arrays together, it looks identical to your larger or your bigger array at the top. So she labeled those two small arrays 5 by 7 and 2 by 7. Now she's just going to write the equation on the side that shows that 5 by 7 and, I like that she put parentheses, and 2 by 7 are going to equal the 7 by 7 that's on the top. On the third box,
Before we move on, though, Ms. Q, one thing I like to do is just check to make sure, because we're all human, right? And we could have made a mistake. So I want to make sure I'm looking for 7 times 7, correct?
that's correct.
So my dimensions down here, once I've combined the 5 and 7 and the 2 and 7, should give me 7 rows and 7 columns. So I want to do a quick count to make sure I got it right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now I can quickly see that my 7 times 7 matches my 7 times 7 up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're good.
Excellent job. And like you pointed out, always double check your work. We don't want to assume anything.